A good Sunday afternoon to you. As we continue to watch the unfolding situation on the border, the United States has dispatched another destroyer to operate with Northern Command and work off the Pacific coast of Mexico. USS Spruance deploys to U.S. Northern Command Area of Responsibility. Peterson Space Force Base, Colorado. The Arleigh Burke class guided missile destroyer USS Spruance departed Naval Base San Diego to support U.S. Northern Command Southern Border Operations in NORTHCOM Area of Responsibility, March 22nd. USS Spruance deployment as part of U.S. Northern Command Southern Border Mission brings additional capability and expands the geography of unique military capabilities working with the Department of Homeland Security, said General Gregory Goulet, Commander, U.S. Northern Command. With Spruance off the west coast and USS Gravely off the coast of the Gulf of America, our maritime presence contributes to all-domain coordinated DoD response to the presidential executive and demonstrates our resolve to achieve operational control of the border. As we've been covering on this channel, since the initiation of the executive order declaring Mexican drug cartels as supporters of international terrorism. We've been on top of it on this channel, watching the situation evolve. USS Gravely was deployed a little over a week ago into the Gulf of America from the East Coast, adding her capabilities. So we have two Arleigh Burke class destroyers off the coast of Mexico, both of which have Coast Guard law enforcement. Where does it say that? Right here. Spruance will be accompanied by U.S. Coast Guard law enforcement detachment. And so is the Gravely. It says that right down here. U.S. Coast Guard law enforcement detachment embarked on her as well. So we have two Arleigh Burke destroyers, both armed with law enforcement detachments from the Coast Guard. More importantly, each armed with 32 Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles. So 64 Tomahawks are now off the coast of Mexico. That's how they should be looking at it. That's legitimately how they should be looking at it. This is her layout. This is what she's very likely carrying. I don't know if the numbers are exact to this, but this is their loadout as of 2018. 32 Tomahawk land attack missiles. Definitely can be used to strike targets in Mexico because we have the intelligence. U-2 spy planes are flying border missions across the southern border. Border surveillance flights shows a wide array of applications for the U-2 as the retirement still looms. We've had U-2 flights. We've had the deployment of radar, anti-drone radar, because we have had confirmed drone activity on the border. Now, it hasn't been against U.S. forces, but it has been against cartel forces. I'm going to bring this up. I just want to mute it. This is, and you'll note, this looks very familiar to stuff we've been seeing out of Ukraine. Dropping grenades from drones onto targets. We've seen this a lot in Ukraine. What else has been deployed? The Pentagon deploys Strykers to the U.S. border. The Pentagon has ordered the deployment of 3,000 active duty troops from the 4th Infantry Division's 2nd Stryker Brigade. So you have actual land forces ready to go on a moment's notice. Not just guard troops. That is a mobile offensive capability. You also have Reaper drones. CIA drone flights over Mexico reportedly began under Biden, but have greatly expanded under the current administration. A lot of flights. And this is all happening with Mexican knowledge. It's part of this little campaign, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said yesterday, in response to questions about the CIA drone flights, but did not elaborate. The Mexican military definitely knows that what we're doing. They knew that we flew the RC-135 Rivet joint surveillance aircraft up and down the coast of Mexico on both sides of the Baja Peninsula in the Gulf of California, staying within international waters. But those flights are very likely still ongoing. And then we have U.S. Special Forces land in Mexico to train Mexican forces. The Americans will come fully armed and train Mexican Navy's Infanteria de Marina, Marine Infantry, in conventional and non-conventional types of combat, and probably participate in drug raids, which have increased in Mexico since our presence has hit the ground. So, American forces, like I've said in every other video, don't just stand by and direct. They're usually at the tip of the spear. In Vietnam, all of the advisors seemed to be in combat. When they took down Pablo Escobar, our boys were in combat. And all of this is in response to cartel activity along the border and illegal immigration along the border. We have had Americans killed along the border. Now, this happened in Mexican territory. Texas rancher killed near border in IED attack by cartel terrorists. And what this story goes through, and this is just February 26th. What this goes through is a rancher who was on the Mexican side of the border tending his ranch. And he just drove across an IED that was meant for a territorial dispute between cartels. So we have had American casualties, not on American soil. Imagine if it was on American soil. What do you think the response of this administration would be? I'm pretty sure I can tell you what it would be, and I'm pretty sure you can guess. Because this administration hasn't been messing around since the get-go. This is March 1st. Mexico shocked by U.S. military threat over cartels. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has reportedly warned Mexican officials that the U.S. military is prepared to take unilateral action against drug cartels if Mexico fails to curb the fentanyl trafficking and illegal migration. Or they can't stop attacks against U.S. personnel on the U.S. side of the border. And then there's this from the boss.
Do you have a red line for the drug cartels that if crossed, it would automatically trigger a military response from the U.S.?
Well, we'll see, but we're not going to put up with it. This country is not going to allow people to come in and dump drugs and kill our youth and other than our youth, too. Older people are very much affected. So.
Do you have a red line for the drug cartels that if crossed, it would automatically trigger a military response from the U.S.?
Well, we'll see, but we're not going to put up with it. This country is not going to allow people to come in and dump drugs and kill our youth and other than our youth, too.
So he's made it clear. He's made it crystal clear. With the signing of the document declaring them supporters of international terrorism, with his statements, with the statements of his Secretary of Defense, which his Secretary of Defense clearly represents the will of this administration, with everything you've heard from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, where he makes it quite clear that the Mexican drug cartels are going to be paying a price. And now we have the deployment of a second destroyer off the coast of Mexico. This one in the Pacific. So we have one in the Pacific, one in the Gulf of America, both with Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles, both with eavesdropping capabilities and multiple other capabilities that I'm sure just don't need to be mentioned here right now. And we do know that targeting of things like this are done by groups such as the Green Berets of the 7th Special Forces Group. We know that the targeting of T-LAMs is also done by things such as the U-2. We know that for a fact. We know that RC-135 contributes greatly to that. We know that the Reaper drones are used for that. Sorry, wrong story. There we go. There's our Reaper drone. Plus, the Reapers can be mounted with Hellfire and other types of missiles. You can see in this picture she has an empty rack, but she's got a stow. So things are ramping up on the border. A second destroyer. I wouldn't be surprised to hear of more ground forces being activated and put into that area. Things are heating up. As things heat up in the Persian Gulf, they're also heating up on our southern border. And we're going to pay attention to both of them for you. We'll keep our eye out. Appreciate you listening. If you like it, hit the like, share it with a friend, hit the subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.